Ladies and gentlemen, let's be real for a second. You ever wake up, look around, and just feel like you're stuck? Like you're spinning your wheels in the same place day after day, and no matter how hard you push, nothing changes? Yeah, I've been there. But here's the crazy part. The reason you feel so stuck, it's not what you think. It's not because you're lazy. It's not because you lack motivation. It's not because the universe is out to get you. It's something deeper, something sneakier. And once you see it, once you really understand it, it's like flipping a switch in your brain. This right here, this moment, is where we start breaking out, not with hype, not with fluffy quotes, with TRUH, with ASEON, and with a mindset that punches excuses in the face. Let's go. Comfort is the real killer. That sounds dramatic, but it's the truth. Most people think danger comes from chaos, from stress, from pressure. But the reality is those things push you forward. They wake you up. What really holds people back is the slow, subtle poison of comfort. It sneaks up on you. It wraps around your life like a warm blanket, and before you know it, you're numb. You're existing instead of living. You're not miserable, but you're not fulfilled either. And that's where the trap is, because comfort doesn't feel like a problem. It feels like safety. It feels like you've made it. We're wired to seek comfort. Our brains evolved to conserve energy, to avoid risk, to stay in predictable environments. Back in the wild, that made sense. But in today's world, that same instinct works against you. You've got food, Wi-Fi, streaming content, climate control. Your basic needs are taken care of, and that's great. But it creates an illusion. It makes you feel like you're doing okay, even if your soul is screaming for more. The job you tolerate but don't love. That's comfort. The relationship that feels more like routine than connection. That's comfort. The workouts you keep skipping, the dreams you keep shelving, the ideas you never start. Now's not the right time. All comfort. And the scariest part is, comfort isn't loud. It doesn't shout at you. It whispers. It tells you to hit snooze. It tells you that tomorrow is better. It tells you that you're fine where you are, that chasing more is risky, maybe even selfish. It's a voice that sounds reasonable, but it's lying to you. Comfort kills ambition. It kills urgency. It tells you to keep waiting for the perfect moment that never comes, and while you wait, time passes, opportunities pass, energy fades, momentum disappears. You start to become a spectator in your own life. Ask yourself, when was the last time you felt truly alive? Not entertained, not distracted. ALIVE. That feeling doesn't come from lying on a couch scrolling. It doesn't come from settling. It comes from struggle, from challenge, from doing things that scare you, stretch you, and force you to level up. People think success comes from getting more comfortable, but the truth is, the most successful, fulfilled people are the ones who learn to be uncomfortable on purpose. They train their minds to embrace the grind, to lean into hard conversations, to take the risks, to fail and keep going. Not because they're masochists, but because they know that's where the growth is. You don't build resilience by avoiding discomfort. You build it by walking straight into it. You don't build strength by doing what's easy. You build it by showing up when it's hard, when you don't feel like it, when no one's watching. Every breakthrough you want is on the other side of discomfort. And that's the paradox. Comfort feels good now, but it costs you long term. Discomfort sucks now, but it pays off in ways that matter. Confidence, purpose, results. So the next time you feel stuck, don't ask yourself what's wrong. Ask yourself what's too comfortable. What you've been avoiding. What challenge you've been dodging because it feels unfamiliar or scary. That's probably the exact thing you need to face. The comfort zone isn't a peaceful place. It's a holding cell with nice lighting. You're not stuck. You're avoiding friction. That might sound harsh, but sit with it. Most of the time when people say they feel stuck, it's not because there's literally no way forward. It's because every available path has some discomfort, some resistance, some heat, and they don't want to deal with it. They keep looking for an exit that feels smooth, painless, effortless. But that path doesn't exist. Progress always involves some level of friction. Growth always has a cost. The illusion that you're stuck comes from waiting for the path of least resistance to magically open up. And while you wait, nothing moves. Friction is that conversation you've been avoiding, that decision you've been delaying, that risk you're not willing to take. It's the tension between where you are and where you want to be. But that tension doesn't mean you're trapped. It means you've hit a point where motion demands pressure. That's natural. That's how it works. But instead of facing it head on, you freeze. You convince yourself that the stuckness is permanent, that something's wrong with you, that you need to wait until you're ready. You don't. you need to lean into the resistance. Think about the moments in your life when you actually moved forward. Real movement, not busy work. There was always some level of friction, wasn't there? You had to push through uncertainty. You had to have the hard talk. You had to face the fear of failing or looking stupid or being judged. But you did it. And afterward, even if it didn't go perfectly, you felt lighter. You felt momentum. Because movement doesn't come from clarity alone. It comes from action in spite of discomfort. People love to say they feel stuck, but what they really mean is, I don't like the options in front of me. That's valid. Not every option is fun or easy. But if you're waiting for all the lights to turn green before you leave the driveway, you'll sit there forever. Life doesn't work like that. The friction isn't a sign that you're on the wrong path. It's proof that you're about to grow. We're trained to avoid friction in school, at work, in relationships. We're taught to minimize conflict, smooth things over, keep the peace. But there's a difference between avoiding unnecessary drama and avoiding necessary friction. The first is wisdom. The second is fear wearing a mask. You can't evolve if you keep dodging the hard stuff. Friction is part of the deal. You might feel stuck in your job, but you're avoiding the friction of putting yourself on the market, risking rejection, brushing up your skills, having honest conversations with your boss. You might feel stuck in your habits, but you're avoiding the friction of discipline, early mornings, saying no to comfort, keeping promises to yourself. You might feel stuck creatively, but you're avoiding the friction of putting your work out there, taking feedback, starting when you don't feel inspired. The moment you stop avoiding friction is the moment things start to shift. Not because everything becomes easier, but because you finally accept that forward means facing some drag. The same way an engine generates power by pushing against resistance, you generate momentum by pushing against the friction in your life. Not all at once. Not perfectly. Just honestly. Step by step. Breath by breath. When you realize that the feeling of being stuck is really just the result of waiting for comfort, you get your power back. You can stop spinning mental circles and start doing the hard, gritty, uncomfortable things that create actual movement. Your mind lies to keep you safe, not strong. That's a tough pill to swallow, but it's something people need to understand if they ever want to break through the walls they keep hitting. Your brain isn't wired for greatness. It's wired for survival. And those are two very different things. Survival means doing what's familiar, what's predictable, what won't get you hurt. Greatness means doing what's uncomfortable, what's risky, what exposes you to failure and judgment. So the very system you rely on to guide your life, your own mind, is often the same thing holding you back. Your brain will tell you're tired when you're just unmotivated. It will tell you to play it safe when you know you should speak up. It will whisper things like, what if you fail? Or you're not ready yet? Or they're going to judge you. And those thoughts don't always come as full-blown panic. They show up subtly. A little hesitation, a little procrastination, a perfectly logical excuse that sounds reasonable in the moment. But peel it back and you'll see the true thing. Your mind is trying to shield you from discomfort, not lead you towards strength. It does this because that's what it's designed to do. Evolution didn't care about your dreams. It cared about your safety. It wanted you to stay in the cave, follow the tribe, avoid predators, conserve energy. But you're not running from wild animals anymore. You're running from emails, from workouts, from hard conversations, from failure. And your brain treats those things like threats, even when they're the very things that would help you grow. Think about how many times you've wanted to make a change, start something new, or take a leap, and your mind kicked in with reasons not to. It wasn't trying to sabotage you. It was trying to protect you. But protection has a cost. Every time you listen to that voice, you trade growth for safety. You trade potential for comfort. And the longer you obey it, the more believable it becomes. Soon, those lies become your identity. You stop thinking you're avoiding challenges. You start believing you're just not capable. It's not that you're weak. It's that you're listening to a system that's outdated. Your mind isn't evil, but it's primitive. It doesn't know the difference between the fear of public speaking and the fear of getting eaten by a lion. It just knows fear, and it throws on the brakes. It says, let's not. And if you never challenge that, you'll spend your whole life playing small, thinking you're being smart. The truth is, strength comes from overriding that instinct, from recognizing the fear, acknowledging it, and then doing the thing anyway. That's how confidence is built, by showing your mind that the danger it's warning you about isn't actually life-threatening. The more you do that, the more your brain learns that it doesn't have to sound the alarm every time something gets hard. You start to rewire it. You start to take control. But it starts with awareness. You have to learn to spot the lie when it shows up. Is this a real danger or just discomfort? Is this a limit or just a reflex? The better you get at identifying those patterns, the less power they have. The voice in your head will still talk, but you don't have to listen. You don't have to take orders from fear disguised as logic. You can choose to lead instead of be led. You can choose strength over safety. Discipline is freedom, not punishment. That flips the script most people have in their heads. When they hear the word discipline, they think of restriction, they think of sacrifice, boredom, rigidity, waking up early, grinding through tasks, saying no to things they want. And yeah, discipline involves all of that. But the point isn't to suffer. The point is to build a life you actually control. Because without discipline, you're not free. You're a slave to your impulses, your moods, your distractions, your excuses. Discipline gives you the ability to choose your future instead of being dragged around by the noise of the present. Most people live reactively. They do what feels good in the moment. What's easy, what's comfortable. And then they wonder why they feel like they're falling behind. They wonder why their goals stay just out of reach. They think motivation is going to carry them. But motivation is a feeling, and feelings change. Discipline is a decision. It's a system. It's the thing that steps in when motivation disappears, which it always does. You don't need to feel like doing it. You just need to do it. That's where the shift happens. Freedom looks like sleeping in, skipping the gym, eating whatever you want, doing what feels fun. But that kind of freedom has a price. It costs you your energy, your clarity, your self-respect. It keeps you in a loop of short-term comfort and long-term regret. You think you're choosing freedom, but you're choosing chains. You can't build anything meaningful without discipline. Whether it's your body, your business, your mindset, or your relationships. Everything good takes effort, and effort isn't always enjoyable in the moment. But it's what makes real freedom possible. When you're disciplined, you don't wait for the stars to align. You don't negotiate with yourself every morning about whether or not to show up. You've already made the decision, and now you execute. That kind of consistency compounds. It builds momentum. It builds identity. You start seeing yourself as someone who follows through, and when you become that person, everything changes. Confidence skyrockets. Stress drops, not because life gets easier, but because you trust yourself to handle it. People think discipline limits your life, but it actually expands it. When you take care of your body gives you energy. When you manage your time, your schedule gives you room to breathe. When you keep your word, your mind gives you peace. Discipline is what builds the internal strength to face the external world. It's not punishment. It's power. And it's not about being perfect. It's about being committed. Some days you'll crush it. Some days you'll barely make it. But the point is, you don't stop showing up. There's always going to be resistance. There's always going to be a voice that says, just skip it today. That voice doesn't go away. But discipline teaches you to act anyway. Not because you feel like it, but because your values are bigger than your mood. That's what separates the people who talk about change from the people who actually make it happen. Discipline is the difference between potential and progress. You build it one small decision at a time. You say no to what doesn't serve you. You say yes to what moves you forward. You choose structure over chaos, repetition over randomness, purpose over impulse. And the more you choose that path, the more freedom you create. Freedom from guilt, freedom from chaos, freedom from being stuck in the same cycle. Discipline doesn't trap you. It unlocks you. It gives you the ability to live by design, not by default. Stop negotiating with your potential. That's one of the biggest reasons people stay stuck. They keep making deals with themselves. They say they want to be great. They say they want to push past limits, but when it's time to do the work, they start the mental bargaining. They lower the bar just a little. They justify skipping the hard stuff. They tell themselves they'll do it later. They'll get serious when the timing's better. They'll give it their all next week. But potential doesn't care about your excuses. It responds to effort, not intention. And every time you negotiate with it, you give up a piece of who you could be. Your potential doesn't show up because you thought about it really hard. It shows up because you acted when it was inconvenient. It grows when you push past resistance, not when you wait for perfect conditions. The truth is, you already know what needs to be done. You know what it looks like to give your best, and you know when you're bullshitting yourself. That inner voice, The one that nudges you to step up, to stop wasting time, to stop hiding. That voice isn't random. It's your potential speaking. And every time you ignore it, it gets quieter. The danger isn't failure. The real danger is being successful at things that don't matter. It's climbing a ladder that's leaning against the wrong wall. It's spending years becoming really efficient at playing small. When you negotiate with your potential, that's exactly what happens. You aim for good enough instead of great. You settle for maintaining instead of growing. You protect your ego instead of testing your limits. And slowly, without even noticing, you become someone who stops dreaming big and starts managing disappointment. People like to talk about mindset, but mindset doesn't just mean staying positive. It means developing the mental toughness to do what's required, not what's convenient. It means making choices based on who you want to become, not how you feel in the moment. That takes honesty. It takes being brutally real with yourself. No sugarcoating, no pep talks, just truth. Are you doing what your potential demands, or are you doing what your comfort allows? Negotiation shows up in 100 small ways. Hitting snooze instead of getting up. Quitting when it gets boring or tough. Choosing distraction over discipline. You don't always notice it because it feels normal. It feels reasonable. But potential isn't unlocked by what's reasonable. It's unlocked by what's rare. Consistency, courage, commitment. The people who rise aren't the ones who had fewer doubts or better circumstances. They're the ones who stopped making deals with their limitations. You don't get to see what's possible if you keep giving yourself a way out. You don't get to access your peak if you keep pulling back every time it gets uncomfortable. You have to stop negotiating with your goals like it's a casual contract. It's not. It's a non-negotiable. You show up whether you feel like it or not. You execute whether it's easy or not. You lead yourself whether anyone's watching or not. There's a version of you that doesn't flinch, that doesn't stall, that doesn't waste time wondering if it's worth it. That version is built, not found. And the only way you build it is by taking your potential seriously. Not like a wish, but like a responsibility. Not like a dream, but like a mission. That means doing the hard thing when no one claps. That means choosing the work over the excuse. That means acting in alignment with your highest standard, not your current comfort. Growth only happens in the uncomfortable zone. That's a truth most people know deep down but spend their entire lives avoiding. We're conditioned to seek ease, to minimize effort, to avoid risk. But real growth, the kind that transforms who you are, not just what you have, lives in the places you don't want to go. It's found in the hard conversations, the unfamiliar environments, the tasks that stretch your limits, the moments that make you doubt whether you're enough. That's where the edge is. And the edge is where you evolve. Comfort is where potential goes to sleep. You might feel stable, maybe even successful by some outside standards, but deep inside you know you're coasting. You're repeating. You're not growing. You're maintaining. And maintaining is just a slow decline wearing a mask. The uncomfortable zone is the opposite. It's where you face challenge and with it, possibility. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's subtle. It's sending the message you're afraid to send. Signing up for the thing you don't feel ready for, showing up when it would be easier to hide, choosing honesty over ease. It's all the little decisions that push you slightly past your limit. We tend to imagine growth as a breakthrough, a big moment, but more often, it's a slow grind through situations that feel awkward, hard, and uncertain. You don't build strength by doing what you're already good at. You build it by struggling through what you can barely do. That's where you stretch. That's where you tear down the old version of yourself and start forming something new. But you only get that by stepping outside of the known. You can't grow while staying comfortable. Those two states are fundamentally opposed. The problem is, people equate discomfort with failure. They feel the tension, the self-doubt, the struggle, and they think something's wrong. But discomfort isn't a red flag. It's a green light. It's a signal that you're in the zone where change can happen. It means you're challenging your identity, your beliefs, your patterns. That's exactly where you need to be if you want to grow. The key is learning to sit in that space without tapping out too soon. Most people can't. They retreat the moment it burns a little. But if you can stay in it, if you can breathe through it and keep showing up, you'll come out the other side different. Growth demands discomfort, and discomfort demands courage. Not the loud, dramatic kind of courage, but the quiet, relentless kind. The kind that says, this scares me, but I'm doing it anyway. The kind that shows up when it's inconvenient. The kind that keeps going when the results aren't instant. That's the kind of courage that creates lasting change. And that kind of courage only grows by being exercised regularly. You don't need to be fearless. You need to be willing. Willing to suck at something new. Willing to feel out of place. Willing to fail in public. Willing to go last. Willing to not know the answer. Because that's what it takes. The uncomfortable zone is where you stop pretending you've got it all figured out and start learning what you're really made of. It's where ego dies and real confidence begins. It's where excuses shrink and resilience grows. It's where you stop living on autopilot and start building on purpose. Everything you say you want. Confidence, clarity, strength, success. It's on the other side of discomfort. That's the price. That's the gateway. Not once, but constantly. If you want to keep growing, you have to keep entering that zone again and again. It never gets easier, but you get stronger. You stop fearing the discomfort and start seeking it because you realize that every time you walk into it, you walk out a better version of yourself.